About 2 weeks ago, we considered this the first time, and I expressed some great hesitation with engaging on this and the manner in which we were doing it. I still have some of those hesitations today, and it would be my request if Councilman Wilder would allow for a friendly amendment to his motion that we would consider this in 2 votes. And the reason I would ask is so that at least this council member can support the bonuses for our teachers, for our frontline workers, for our nutritionists, for the bus drivers. But there are aspects of this that I would like to delay, that I would like to see that we have some more discussion on. Reason being is it's my understanding that the schools haven't spent all of their $2.5 million yet from the federal CARES money. I'd like to see a plan for how that be used and what that may look like. 2 weeks ago, the schools received $175 per pupil from the Commonwealth of Virginia. It was my plan to ask the superintendent tonight if they've received guidance on how they can use those dollars. So I would like to pause a little bit on that, but if Councilmember Wilder would be allowing to have a friendly motion to a friendly amendment to his motion, which would allow me to support the bonuses, but also to ask to vote in opposition to another aspect of this entire expenditure.
This is my challenge. We have a school board. We have a school administrative staff, and they have a financial officer there, and they have approved certain items. I think that should be more so an item for the, I know we appropriate funds, things of that nature, but when you get to the point where you want to micromanage everything that they do, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. I want to do this. I thought I saw a list of what they plan to do with some of the CARES funds. From my understanding, they have used the majority of the CARES funds in talking with persons. So unless I'm mistaken, but in talking to certain persons, they have used the majority, talk to the school board chair, they have used the majority of those CARES funds. So I'm a little confused. So I'd rather approve this amendment, this motion the way it is, but I understand your position. I respect that.
And I could be incorrect on if they've spent the majority of those funds. I will say I want to support parts of this. I want to advocate and support those who have been on the front lines, those nutrition workers, the bus drivers, and so on. So if that is your position on this, I would make a substitute motion that we would engage on this issue in 2 separate votes, so that at least I would be able to support the funding for the teachers and the bonus, and then vote in opposition to the other funds. So that would be a substitute motion.
Vice Mayor?
No, I guess it needs a second.
Oh,
I'll second that.
Randy second, okay.
And if I can speak further to the motion, you know, I look at it and I understand that this has been a process put in play since I think 1993. And I look at this and say the schools is, I could be wrong, but I don't have anyone here to tell me otherwise as it stands right now. Has the schools spent $2.5 million from the federal government? It has to be spent by the end of the year. I don't know if they have. They've just received another $175 from the state per student. 2 weeks ago, I was told that we don't even have the ground rules on how to spend that money. So why are we going to go ahead and spend additional money when we don't have the groundwork and the blueprints and the path forward and how we can spend all the money to best serve the schools? I think it would be financially prudent to wait until we know how they've spent money across the board so that we can support this. Additionally, it is concerning to me that if, and again, I could be wrong about this, but I don't have anyone here to verify, if we do, in fact, have 1,000 less kids per day checking in, and again, I recognize I could be wrong with that, but if that is the case, why aren't these funds going more towards the web crams and more towards the Wi-Fi connections, not bus scrapers or certain things? I would rather we use the federal funds, and yes, to Councilman Wilder's point, that is getting into the nitty-gritty. But it's for those reasons why I made the motion. I want to support portions of this. I do want to delay on some other aspects of it. And if we can move forward in this way, this council member would certainly appreciate it. So thank you. That's why I made the motion.
Councilmember Tweedy?
I appreciate everyone stalling with political gamemanship, because we have folks who want to And I'm going to go ahead and call it what it is. Sterling has been very nice and considerate. But no, I think we need to go ahead and vote on it. It is what Sterling said. It's a fund balance. It was presented. COVID has to be spent on specific reasons. They have those. If we're going to hold the school system to that accountability of how we're spending, we need to hold ourselves to it too, because we've got funds to spend by December. We've got accountability on how we spend it, when we spend it, and what we spend it on. So in my opinion, council members are confusing two different arguments for the sake of some not wanting to vote for the school division because they just don't approve of school division purchases, expenditures, and prolonging this. We can vote on this for the things, as Dr. Wotica said, COVID funds can be spent on siding and HVAC. That's not COVID related. So it's very specific now what we have before us, what the funds can and are going to be spent on. There's no substitution of how to roll something else in because they may not have spent all they were going to spend on COVID and that sort of thing. It's very clear what these funds that we're approving tonight can be spent on and what COVID can be spent on. And they have an accountability system to spend the funds. There is not substitution for buying a bus in COVID. And if I'm correct, and if I heard the last time through several, that was stated when these funds were appropriated, and these same questions were asked by the same people when the superintendent gave us several presentations and conversations. So I appreciate the political gamemanship of, I don't want to vote for this, but I'll vote for this because of the fact of not appearing to support public education. But sometimes you just got to make a decision and then decide later, okay, bring back the accountability measure. And if they haven't spent the funds that are supposed to be spent on COVID, then that's on them and us to hold them accountable. But to confuse the pots, to confuse the conversation on a vote that can be taken now, because some of this I would say needs to get into the rolling motion, because you've got to have time for ordering buses. You've got to have time for doing things. So there's a time frame associated with why we do these things in normal process. I think council members are confusing the issue because it's just convenient for political ideology, for constituent political ideology, and I can go deeper. Just like the numbers that were brought up. We can make numbers dance if you want. But to just take a number and not give context, no one here other than Sterling, as far as I know, understands the context behind kids checking in as to why there may be reasons why numbers are high for something. But we just take a number and use it for whatever political stance we want. Oh, that's the reason why not to do this, because they have this. There's no substance behind that. There's no context behind the argument. It's just said, and people want to roll with it. And so I'm just going to lay it out there. People might not like my opinion, but no, I'm not going to vote for the substitute motion. I want it to stand personally because of the way I'm thinking that these funds are going to be spent and what has been presented to us in several presentations. And you make the stand and then you go with it.
I thought I made it clear enough that there are aspects of this I support and aspects of this that I would like to delay on. I reject the notion that I may have done this out of selfish ambition or political gamesmanship. It saddens me that that's the first indication that comes out of this. It was my hope that this would give us more opportunity to look at a broader scope of where the funds could go, from CARES money to these funds to the state funds that we have received that we don't even have a blueprint on. I would like to be a quarterback at the 25-yard line going down to the end of the field so that I know what all my options are, where the money can be spent, and where I can allocate my resources. We may disagree on this topic. I hold our school system in high regard. I am not doing this out of any other reason that I simply believe this is the right course of action. And with that, Madam Mayor, I would move the pending question.